Alright, what's up y'all, it's Lake 2 here. As you can see by the title of today's video, here to talk about how Hisuian Zoroark is actually the biggest threat to Paris Trap in Pokemon Champions. Forget about King Gambit, forget about Sneasler, forget about Incineroar and Garchomp or Aerodactyl or anybody like that. Hisui-Zoroark is the biggest threat 100%. A lot of reasons can be listed, but to start us off, the deception to it is already the hardest. Like, in a style that's very reliant on things like Fake Out and to be able to set Gengar up for success, as well as then you add in the fact that Hisui-Zoroark threatens KO into Gengar as well with things like Shadow Ball. If we wanted to pull up a calc, I'll do that later. But long story short, can 100% KO Gengar. Typically, in some different sets where they're not as offensively based, it won't. But yeah, just the deception alone, but then the fact that like this is still threatening damage, 75% with Shadow Ball into our Gengar, and then even if you did have Sludge Bomb, ours doesn't for that matter, so you can't touch him with Shadow Ball because he's normal Ghost type. But then even if you did carry Sludge Bomb, it's still only going to be a 2-hit KO. So whether it's, you know, Scarf Hisui-Zoroark or for its Focus Sash Hisui-Zoroark, chances are it comes out on top no matter how you're running your Gengar. And then again, just like the real threat to all this is just the deception, not being able to know everything. Paris Trap is a very calculated, very predictive play style where like you kind of have to know what you want to set up and what you want to do against the opponent. So if you do see something like a King Gambit and a Sneasler on the lead, you kind of want to fake them out because that's your opening to set up the Paris Trap, is to be able to fake out something like a King Gambit. But if it happened to be a Zoroark that you're doing that to the whole time, you don't get the fake out, it goes before you, it takes the KO with Shadow Ball, now your Gengar's gone, you just lost the game, purely off of Zoroark being here. So more than just that is the fact that if it's being brought with the opponent's team, you still have to consider that at all times. And even if you call the bluff of them bringing Zoroark, you still have to play as if they're going to, and if it's somewhere. So yeah, long story short, this thing is extremely threatening and is just such a pain for you to deal with when it comes to your Paris Trap style of team. Not to mention, it's just a good Pokemon in general, like very, very powerful. So anyway, I'm going to show you guys the team that we were running at the time. I actually don't even think I showed you guys the Cleaver. I don't even think I put a team code. So let me go throw Cleaver into the lineup right here, and we'll actually make a team code real quick for you guys who were interested in running the Cleaver squad. Alright, here's the team that you're going to see with Cleaver right here if you guys want any of the actual mons or just the way that they're trained. I did respec things around a little bit on some of them. I think everybody should be good for the most part though, because we use different copies of some of these mons like Primarina and Kamo and Incineroar for the other squad that we're kind of developing on the other side of things. So this should be good for the most part on everybody here. Yeah, and even Gengar is, we have a separate set for him on this other team that we're developing. So anyway, we're going to get straight into some of these games, but I just want to let you guys see the team. But yeah, let's get into this, how this Zoroark is trolling the heck out of us. Alright, so for game 1, as you can see, a pretty standard meta team. We have literally like the 5 most used Pokemon in the whole game, and then Zoroark. So, we have Charizard, Aerodactyl, Garchomp, Sneasler, King Gambit, no Basculegion, somehow, but it's only because they have a Hisui-Zoroark instead. So, yeah, this whole meta spam has been a little bit frustrating to play into, and then it gets even harder when you have to be very tactical about what you see, and it's already even hard to guess the leads, to be completely honest, but then it makes it even more complex when they could just disguise anybody as Zoroark for that matter. So the lead is the most important turn for Paris Trap, and it's why it's very concerning when you see a Zoroark, because honestly, as much as you probably want to just double protect on anything and you could wait it out and see the moveset of the people that you're going to be seeing, some of these leads are very important to be hitting Fake Out into instead for Paris Trap. Like, I know it's going to make me look like a noob, to be honest, to be seeing stuff like this and see, oh, my standard King Gambit Sneasler lead that I actually posted a video of earlier today that you guys are going to see. And basically, as I told you guys in this one, my opening to this every single time is to fake out King Gambit and then ignore Sneasler, right? That's literally the whole way I go about this every time, but now you have to really be so questioning on something like that. Now, the problem is, I don't know if we can really get away with it too easily. What we probably could have done if this were still Sneasler and King Gambit, we could have gone double protect right here and basically next turn been able to, let's say, substitute and then start disabling Sneasler to make him like incapable of doing certain moves. But turns out, like, if this is Hisui-Zoroark right here, we can't do anything anyway. So this is just a good lead regardless, and they just did a good job at disguising it. So basically, like I said, we're still leading this as if it's not Zoroark, and I'm just calling the bluff on them even bringing him. I just felt like into a team like ours, like Sun is still very powerful, so to go like Charizard and like Aerodactyl somewhere here would still be really good. Or if again they wanted still King Gambit, again, And then two of these guys have to be coming somewhere on the team. So anyway, here, we'll bypass the whole mega screen and stuff. As you can see, we go fake out into their King Gambit, and it does hit. So that means it's for sure King Gambit. It's not, Hisui-Zoroark in that slot. So at this point, I'm feeling pretty good about it because I was thinking they were going to disguise him in that slot. But then we see Shadow Ball come from Sneasler, and as you can see, we get first turn KO'd before we're even able to get off a sub, a perish, anything like that. How threatening is that? That is so much of a big deal, fellas. It's like actually insane. I think the only way that we could counterplay this is to run Disable on Gengar and start disabling moves from from King Gambit, I should say, on the first turn slot. Because then what we'd be able to do probably is go Disable on the Shadow Ball with Sableye and then Disable on the King Gambit with Gengar instead. And it'd keep us safe off of a double protect that we could do into a play like that. But man, what a frustrating way to go about that. So Hisui-Zoroark is still a threat. However, we are going to hit Disable on him to stop him from using Shadow Ball now. And it's probably going to shut him down more likely than not. And then we also threaten big KO into King Gambit, obviously with Kamo-O. So basically, the game's not over yet, but we just got to make a couple of plays. So they see that type of threat is there, and let me tell you, I am a Gengar merchant who is very built off of not making predicts on people making switch outs, because I don't really like trying to plan what's in the back for opponents and stuff like that as well. So to be fair, I didn't know Sneasler was in the back because Zoroark is revealing itself as Sneasler, so that means a Sneasler has to be brought. And as you can see, we hit the real Sneasler for a third of his HP with the body press. So we got to keep playing around all this stuff. Now we're probably going Protect right here to stop the fake out, and there's really not much we can even do, to be honest. We could make the Zoroark struggle, for instance, and I don't think we want to take Sableye off the field with a Sneasler on the field right now, but it's tough. I mean, we're just being threatened now with a whole 3v4 and don't really have too many options. So we're going to keep Sableye out here and just make it so that if the Zoroark wants to stay out here, it's going to struggle. And then if not, we can play around whatever's maybe coming in. And it happens to be Charizard instead of King Gambit. So yeah, a bit of a toughie for sure. So Charizard ends up being brought, Charizard Y for that matter too. And it's obviously just going to be a terrible, terrible time for us now. I mean, this team comp was very good into ours. So anyway, they go Dire Claw on Sneasler, but now because they did the switch out, Sableye is kind of vulnerable, all things considered. We could disable the Dire Claw. This is kind of my play now, I believe, is to disable the Dire Claw and bring in Primarina so that it can be safe in the face of Sneasler. Well, turns out we have a little bit of another play that's also threatening into us. So they're going to hit Heat Wave on their Charizard and do massive damage, obviously, into things like Sableye, and the sash is going to get broke. It could miss, but it also could burn us just as likely as the miss. So basically, there's a good end and a bad end of this. And as you can see, Prim even still gets like 50% of its HP taken off. Sableye's sash gets removed, and yes, so we don't get burnt, thankfully. But Close Combat comes out. They weren't even readying a Dire Claw, so they just were faking us out, essentially, on that. And yeah, a little bit of a tough time. And then with the Close Combat, I was like, well, does that mean, I see the Citrus Berry popping off. Turns out my item pops first. They do indeed get the White Herb to pop. So now they can just keep spamming Close Combats faster than anything. And to be fair, they were already faster than anything on our team remaining regardless, so it didn't even actually matter. We could disable the Heat Wave on Charizard, but then it's like, I don't even know if that's not going to help us right now. So we're pretty much cooked, if we're being completely honest. This is over. There's no way to get out of this. I really don't think we have even a chance. At this point, I think maybe our only out is to disable so that we can keep Charizard safe, but then as you can see, they end up switching into King Gambit right here. Not a good situation at all. And again, with no Gengar, it's just going to be hard to make this play. And guess what? Charizard has Solar Beam. Literally like 10% of people that even run Charizard Y have Solar Beam on him. It's just a crazy play, especially with how much rain teams are such a threat as well. So if the rain's turned on while you were readying a Solar Beam, it ends up taking 2 turns. You just don't do any damage, and then we just double protect on a turn where you did the Solar Beam. So yeah, now we could Encore into the Charizard, but they're just going to keep spamming Protect plus Switch Out. So it's like all this stuff is just, terrible, long story short. So anyway, we end up losing, and again, it's all just because of the freaking Zoroark, and that's really it. We do take a KO at the end to make us feel like some cool guys. And now, as you can see, they have Zoroark back in with the double Sneasler, but we know with this one, we know that this is the real Sneasler because he's at 67% HP, so at least we, like I said, know that. But anyway, we're still cooked. It's still over regardless. So that's game 1 of it, and as you're actually going to see, this is the start of our downslope that ended up sending us down from the 2000 elo back down to like 1900, and it's 2 of the games are Zoroark's fault, being real. Alright, so into the next game, as you can see, they have Zoroark at the top of their team, and then also in Alolan Ninetales, which that will be an obvious one with the Snow Cloak ability, announcing itself on Summon. I think Aerodactyl Unnerve potentially would as well. I don't know if that does for sure or not off the top of my head, though I don't really remember. But yeah, like they even are threatening Mega Sharpedo against us, which is like their only Mega for that matter too. It's an interesting team. I gotta give them props. I mean, like, this is not something that you typically see. Or, to be fair, it could also be Mega Aerodactyl, so that's probably another play that's pretty likely from their squad as well. I wouldn't know. I didn't get to that point, to be real with y'all. So, long story short, what you're going to see on the leads right here, they show Archaludon and Sneasler. So, what do we think about this one? I was going combo O on the lead to be able to deal with, let's say, an Aerodactyl potentially, or even a Ninetales. Potentially the Zoroark, and I'm not faster though than a Scarf Zoroark, to be real. So yeah, I would have been faster than Sharpedo though, and been able to do an X-Scissor. So long story short, Cleaver would have really done really well into this team, but with the current lead that that's a bit of a toughie. We actually don't do a lot of big damage, and we're already kind of behind the 8 ball, to be real with you, even if this was Sneasler or Archaludon, because I didn't lead my really good duo, like for instance a Sableye, into this. So basically, this is the way I wanted to go about this now, is if this was Arch plus Sneasler, I have to make certain plays, and you can really only play around that lead in just like its own very specific way. It's already hard enough playing against Sneasler or Archaludon. Then I have to start thinking, is it Hisui-Zoroark in either of the 2 slots? That's just like, it's asking a lot, I'm gonna be real. So, I don't know. I think this Mon should be on so many more teams, if I'm being completely honest, and probably my own, for that matter, too. I just think the level of like hiding the Pokemon you could do, especially even on my team, could be fire. We could disguise like hyper voices as if they were Primarina. We could disguise Shadow Balls as if they were Gengar. The other team would be like, why isn't Mega Gengar evolving? What is this? And meanwhile it's just Zoroark. But anyway, yeah, so you're gonna see they go fake out into our original Cleaver spot, and this is really good because we could get Sneasler stuck hitting the fake out, and it would have been great if it was Arch, but it wasn't, because then I end up getting outsped, and then my substitute doesn't work. So yeah, not a great situation. And you can see we lived that one. Like I was saying, if it's not modest, if it was like timid instead, or jolly, whatever they just, decide on for that. Long story short, they would not get the KO. However, it would do a lot of damage. So chances are there's just like a speed up nature, and I don't know if it's going to be scarfed or not. I am faster if it's not scarfed, even if it is speed up nature and all that. So yeah, anyway, now we're kind of cooked again. Like I said, I could have spent the first turn hitting Perish at least, and that would have been a positive, because then we would have lived. But the fact that I hit Substitute, and then the Zoroark ends up outspeeding us, because it is Scarf, for that matter, is definitely a problem. So anyway, yeah, now we're cooked. We're just behind the 8 ball. We gotta at least protect Gengar, because at this point we're hoping to sift some moves down and like maybe keep, let's say, Sneasler stuck hitting Fake Out. They play perfectly around that and protect the Sneasler instead of getting faked out. We probably should have just gone Protect on Sableye, but as you can see, they ended up going Shadow Ball, so it didn't even technically matter. Now at this rate, it's like Disable is probably the good play, into, let's say, the Archaludon, aka Zoroark, and stopping him from using something like the Shadow Ball over and over again, and we could spoof them maybe with a play like that. The problem is though, there is no play. I just am like cooked. Even the slightest little stupid bit of damage on a Sneasler, for instance, is gonna cook me. I do think maybe we could have played around this by going, let's say, Disable into the that still wouldn't even work either. Like I was gonna say Disable or Encore Sneasler into hitting Protect over and over again, but we would have had to switch something good into the Shadow Ball here. It's just like so terrible of a situation to be had right now. So whether you want to force Sneasler into being useless, or if you want to force the Zoroark into stopping using Shadow Ball, as you can see, it's what we decide to go with right here, is disabling into the Zoroark. But it's just like, even still, I just don't know if it's enough, because we just have lost so much momentum off the beginning of the game right here. So they go Dire Claw into Sableye instead of Gengar, which I think is crazy for that matter too. We actually could have made a really good play right there by going Shadow Ball into the Sneasler and getting big damage, and then being able to disable the Hisui-Zoroark, who probably would have had to switch out the next turn then, because it can't even do damage if it has Hyper Voice and Shadow Ball. So we could have been playing around that decent. It's just there were too many things of options and too much confusion and too much, like I said, just misdirection. And it's all Zoroark's fault. It's just such a hard mon to play around, man. So anyway, I end up going to Cleaver right here. That didn't really do me any good, to be real with you. We could still do decent damage into the Zoroark, for instance, and actually Stone Axe could stop the switch-in spam and stuff as well. We also could potentially do something like, let's go Encore into, Dire Claw instead on Sneasler, who isn't going to be able to do very big damage with that. You can see they do switch Archaladon out for Archaladon, which means this is the real Archaladon. But anyway, yeah, we want to keep Sneasler probably away from hitting things like, for instance, close combat. So we're going to keep him using the Dire Claw. Stone Axe does a nice 50% damage right there, even with resisted damage. And now we have the Stealth Rocks on the field for their switch-ins and stuff as well. But yeah, Dire Claw spam with Sneasler. Once again, like I said, the Encore is a decent play. It's just Sableye loses a lot of value when Gengar's not on the field, because now, like, we would have Sneasler stuck. We would be able to hit Disable into his Encore move, and he would be stuck kind of hitting the same, loop over and over again. But we can't really hard switch Gengar into a slot where he's got 21 HP, so he's really only going to be able to come in off of a sacrifice. So we're just cooked, fellas. It's over. I mean, realistically, like, I don't like giving up on games early, but like this one was pretty set in stone that we're kind of cooked. You can see the Stealth Rocks putting in a little bit of work right there. We protect Sableye to maybe just keep him online for dealing with Archaladon potentially. And now because Zoroark has been revealed, boom, we're able to, well, not because he got revealed, but big damage with the Stone Axe, as well as taking the damage off of the Stealth Rocks as well. Flash Cannon into Cleaver, as you can see, takes a one-hit KO, super effective damage. Unfortunately, it's like one of the few things that super affects him. So yeah, we left ourselves pretty vulnerable to that, all things considered. But I don't know, what can you do? Not a lot of great plays to be had here. We still haven't even seen their Mega Pokemon yet, for that matter. We don't know if it's Sharpedo. We don't know if it's Aerodactyl. At this point, I'm kind of holding on to a prayer that it's Sharpedo, for being completely honest. But now, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to deal with the Archaladon well. So, they end up going Ninetales, right? So, I think what this means, for that matter, is that they didn't even bring a Mega Pokemon. So talk about even more deception, man. I mean, it's just so frustrating, right? I would have never expected Ninetales. Like, we just... good play by them, I suppose, right? To end up not bringing either of those Megas, because we predicted and played around them quite a bit, all things considered. So the fact that they didn't bring them hurts quite a bit for us. So what can we even do now? It's Flash Cannon from Archaladon is the only move that could be, like, something could be done into. We could, Encore him into Flash Cannon. That's not really great value, to be real with you. I don't know, man. it's cooked. Like I said, it's over. So anyway, we end up going double protect right here. You can see the Blizzard come out, and then as far as our Chaladon's move, let's see that real quick. Okay, so Sableye protect, Gengar protect. I don't know why we're not seeing the Archaladon move. Let me see this. Hold on. So we got Sableye protect, Gengar protect, Ninetales use Blizzard, and then what did Archaladon do? I don't know why I didn't see this. Hold on, I'm just letting this play out. Okay, Dragon Pulse. All right. So, there's two things we'd have to disable to keep Kamo online, which is a little bit tough. So, like, if we wanted to threaten damage into something like Ninetales, that's probably our best shot right now, and then go, like, disable into the Dragon Pulse or Blizzard, potentially. Either way, Kamo can't really deal with either of those, so basically we can't switch him in. We're just, like I said, in a very, very bad spot. So we ended up going to disable into the Blizzard right here. And then, obviously, as you can see, opening up an opportunity for us to try and get the KO into Ninetales. This is very, very bulky, or I just maybe underestimated the amount of damage we'd be doing right there. So then Dragon Pulse hits into Sableye and gets the KO. At least we know that it's, disabled on the Blizzard, so that's going to allow us to, like, kind of be free a little bit right here. And now I just kind of am going and calling the bluff on Ninetales having a fairy move. That's like our best shot right here, to be completely honest. So we're doubling into Archaladon. We're going Shadow Ball plus Draco. The only reason I'm doing Draco rather than Body Press is because Gengar is going to go first, which if he is sturdy, or stamina, I should say, is going to give him a defense buff, so we can't afford to do that. So instead, going Shadow Ball into Draco is the way to do this, not to mention he gets a special defense drop too, and it is stamina. Well, anyway, Ninetales goes Aurora Veil, which I think that should still leave us pretty free to get the KO into the Archaladon, thanks to the special defense drop, but Archaladon outspeeds with a good, decent bit of speed investment, whereas our Kamo doesn't have any speed investment, and they're both about 85 base speed, so yeah, chances are that probably was going to happen, if we're being completely honest. So, the Draco ends up getting the KO into Archaladon. I have to, once again, like I said, just bank on the fact that this is a non-damaging move, Ninetales. So, like I said, if it has something like Moonblast, we're cooked. But with its Blizzard being canceled right now, that's really good. However, Sneasler is going to threaten Fake Out into us now. So now I need the Shadow Ball to pick up the KO on Sneasler, but the Aurora Veil play was huge. It was absolutely huge. So this is going to make it a lot harder to get the KO on Sneasler. The Stealth Rock damage actually helps quite a bit, but like obviously he resisted it, so it only took 5% off of it. And now I pretty much just have to call the bluff on, I'm hoping it's not Fake Out, and I just have to go with a Body Press into Ninetales, as well as Shadow Ball into Sneasler, and hope the Shadow Ball snags the KO. And he lives on 5%. He lives on 5%, man. And then pops the White Herb too, so now he's going to go before Gengar next turn, even if we end up, like, you know, not getting KO'd right here. Imagine that. Imagine that if we could have pulled this off, though, because if that did get the KO, that means that maybe Ninetales, as you're going to see whatever Ninetales fires off on this move right here, doesn't even have a damaging move to be done, and it would just be stuck using Encore, and we would have just Shadow Balled into the Ninetales the next turn, and then got the double up KO as well with the Body Press. So now because Unburden's popped and all that, now I just have to hope that I just live a Sneasler attack, and then, I don't know, like, it's over again. But we really had a chance here. We most certainly had a chance. And for that matter, too, low-key almost had a chance because they actually protect Sneasler. So if I would have gone with the target into Ninetales instead right here, it maybe even could have been, like, a better play. It would have still came down to, can I live a Dire Claw, though, all things considered. And as much as that is nice because we 4x resist it on Gengar, I don't know that that's even consistent. So now it's kind of obvious we have to go with the damage into Ninetales. Or no, it's not even, no, that's not even the case. We have to go with the damage into Sneasler now because of the way that this is set up, and hope that Blizzard misses. That's like our own, so now we're holding on to the contingency of hope Blizzard misses and hope we live Dire Claw, and then hope we even get the KO in the next turn with the Shadow Ball. So yeah, long story short, a lot needed to happen here, and then we end up getting KO'd by the Dire Claw. I do kind of want to run that back. I'm gonna go to the calc real quick. So that was Sneasler, that we had 21% HP on Gengar left. Let's go look at this real quick. I'm very curious about this. So, Sneasler, and then I'm gonna go to the custom set that I have speed up nature. So, wow, yeah, I don't know, man. That's kind of crazy. I mean, he does 13 to 15% damage. So that had to be what, Adamant Sneasler? Oh my God, that's insane. Okay, wait, no, we have to look at the actual numbers rather than the percent. Okay, so reminder, I'm at 21% HP with Gengar. Yeah, it looks like minimum roll just perfectly does exactly 21 on a Jolly Sneasler. If I had 22 HP or even like 23, we would have had more like a 50% chance at winning this. But yeah, it just so happens that's the exact damage they needed to get a KO. If I had 25, I would have lived every one. And then if I had 25, that makes it so Adamant would make it where about 50% to 60% of them I ended up living. So yeah, that's very tough. We could have pulled that off. It's just tough that, like I said, we ended up not getting the KO with the Shadow Ball. And for that matter too, let's look at that. So with Sneasler, let's give him Light Screen real quick, or Aurora Veil more specifically. And Shadow Ball into a Sneasler, we'll just give him the 2 HP investment. That would do anywhere between 38% to 45%, aka 61 HP to 62. Let's go back to that real quick. I only get to see percent, to be fair, so I'm just gonna judge it off the percentage. So Sneasler was, I believe, at what, about 50% or something like that? 45. So that means on the calc here. Okay, yeah, unfortunate. I'm just outside the barriers of all of this stuff with all these calcs, you know, to even have a chance. So everything lined up perfectly for them to just be able to barely not have a chance at getting KO'd, and then barely have a chance to, you know, still take the KO with us on Dire Claw as well. So yeah, definitely tough, man. I mean, just really rough end of the game. But all things considered, we fought pretty good for the, you know, getting trolled by Zoroark at the very beginning here. And again, just crazy that they didn't bring one of their Mega Pokemon. But again, if they feel like they're hard countered by him, I mean, Cleaver right here is a huge counter into both their Mega Pokemon. So I brought him specifically for them, and then they didn't even bring them. Just a toughie, you know? I mean, like, you can't really play around that too well. Same with Kamo-O, just absolutely dog walks Mega Sharpedo for that matter too. So I don't know. Fair enough. They must have really been intimidated by a lot of our Mons into their, like, Megas and decided to just roll with the 4 non-Mega game. So anyway, yeah, shout out to Hisui-Zoroark. I think he's a really cool Mon. It's just very frustrating playing against him. You know, he's like that basketball player or like football player that you really like being on your team, but you know you'd hate him if you were on like other teams, or like especially like a rival one or anything like that. So yeah, anyway, good game all around. I gotta say, like, that one was a little bit at least more fun to play and actually had a chance. The other one, I just literally got one hit KO'd off first turn and like boom, now we're just done, you know. So yeah, a little tough. Anyway, that's all for the vid. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, feel free to drop a like, sub if you're new to notice, all that good stuff. Like always, try this 1 to 200 likes, and if you made it to the end of the video and you want to search what you did, put Zoroark, or you could put H in the comment. Nah, don't do H. It'll look like too much spam to YouTube probably. Just put Zoroark or put Zoro in the comment search support you all the way through. So yeah, fun times though. I will say, like, we could even consider trying to add him to the squad. He's a little bit harder to blend in. However, he does get U-turn, so it makes him kind of usable in Parish. And you could still disguise him like as quite a bit of things. Like, if you want to disguise him as Sableye and mislead damage, like, you know, let's say when they see Sableye out there, they're gonna think it's just like Mr. Prankster Boy, Mr. you know, Encore Disable, Quash, like, you know, Will-O-Wisp, T-Wave, stuff like that. But instead, it's like Scarfed, big damage, Zoroark letting off hyper voices and like, you know, Shadow Balls and stuff like that, taking surprising KOs, double up into, let's say, something like even a Basket Legion would be like huge. You know, Scarf Zoroark and a Scarf Basket Legion could be like a really good counterplay. We could like even use him as a switch in with 3 immunities is really, really big. So like, forget about the deception, just being able to switch him in for, like I said, Gengar, who's gonna end up getting KO'd by Basket Legion Last Respects, or opposing Gengar potentially. You know, just send in our hitter right there and let him do things. So I don't know how well it would fit with, like, let's say having Sableye on the same team, but all things considered, Zoroark doesn't really have a lot of similar ghost type weaknesses, and neither does Sableye for that matter. I mean, like, you know, ghost types are typically weak to opposing ghost types, or in Sableye's case, opposing dark types, but both of them kind of have weird, like, off-putting ways of running as a ghost. So anyway, I'm intrigued. I would like to try it out a little bit with this squad, maybe see if we can flex it around a little bit, but who knows? I'm just not sure he's the best fit as far as adding to the squad. But we've been rotating that 6th slot, like Cleaver right there, a lot. So who knows? We could try it with Zoroark. Anyway, that's all vid. I hope you all enjoyed. None of that. Take it easy, man. Peace.